If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor store.
And one that popped off this week, which I thought was interesting at first, but then when you really think about it, is quite the power matchup, is that great 80s, 90s wrestler matchup. British Bulldog or Dr. Death Steve Williams, two men known for the power, known for the big slams.
Right, the power slams in particular. Davey Boy had that throw you over his shoulder, run, take a few steps, power slam. And Doc had what he would call the Oklahoma Stampede, where he'd literally pick you up, slam your back from corner to corner run, and then power slam you. Yeah, two of my favorites growing up. I won't lie. I was actually a little bit more of a British Bulldog fan because he was the first one I saw. I loved him with Dynamite Kid, and then I loved his singles run. My mom had a crush on Davey Boy Smith, and therefore, I don't know why. But as a kid, I was like, I didn't find it awkward. I was just like, yeah, you go, Mom. You get Davey Boy.
And it was wild, Dave, because until this week, I've heard the name Davey Boy Smith forever.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me that the British Bulldog's given name is David Smith.
Yeah.
Never didn't even think of it. I saw it on the tombstone. Yeah. I'm like, Dave ain't dead. He's raising 5 kids. We got to do a show this weekend. This is a big matchup. I mean, Dr. Death, both guys known as a tough guy. Dr. Death, notorious tough guy. And one thing that I was also thinking that was interesting about these guys is you think about how they had such big careers, how they were known as these big powerhouses. And yet, you know, like freak injuries kind of derailed them from being bigger than they could be. Yeah. Davey Boy Smith is getting body slammed on that trap door with Dr. Death making that big debut in the WWF and then having the Brawl for All have like hurt his chances there. And it didn't hurt him as a legitimate tough guy. He had a great career after that. Dr. Death Steve Williams wrestled in the original MLW, you know, went on. So it wasn't like these incidents necessarily ended both careers, but they both had a big incident that changed the course of their career.
Now, the question for this particular one was who was the better in-ring worker, not better career. Now, if you talk better career, that's also highly debatable too, because Bulldog had more of that national success in WWE, but Dr. Death's Japan run was really something else. As far as better worker in the ring, it's arguable. I think Dr. Death's a little more gritty, and I think that's where you find these hardcore fans like him. But I think Davey was very highly underrated as a technical wrestler as well, because a lot of times he got grouped with Brett and Owen, two of the best technical wrestlers of that era, but Davey could hang with them, and he had that power game. So I just like Davey. He definitely didn't always have his head on straight. We've joked about it a few times in the past.
Even on crack.
Even on crack, he put on a hell of a match, all right? You know, my man did it. So, yeah, and yet I went with Davey. But as far as the power slam, if I'm going to break this up in 2 categories, Dr. Death all day.
Now, I'm gonna have to argue against you with that, because even though Davey, good technical wrestler, learned in the Heart Dungeon, Dr. Death, collegiate wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, legitimate tough man. Probably, I bet if UFC had gone back then, that is something Dr. Death could have at least entered. I'm not going to say he would have gone in there and killed it, because we saw plenty of power guys enter the UFC that just couldn't adapt to that MMA style. But you got to feel like Dr. Death would have had a chance with at least that collegiate wrestling background.
Yeah, at the end of the day, both very tough, very legit. And as far as you ask me who would win in a real fight, I'd probably bet on Dr. Death, actually.
Yeah, it's hard not to.